SpaceX isn't just setting records with high-tech rockets and boosters. Seems like the private space agency is breaking the age-old tradition of space programs outsourcing the development of their spacesuits by doing it themselves. And boy, have they outdone themselves. Musk's private venture managed to shock the veteran of veterans, NASA. Just how? Well, let's find out. First up, how good is SpaceX's spacesuit? SpaceX's new spacesuit is easily putting NASA's pumpkin spacesuits out of style, and we don't just mean fashion-wise. Musk's latest work is a one-piece white design that's a huge improvement from the bulky and hard-on-the-eyes orange spacesuits we're all used to seeing. But those impressive looks didn't really work in SpaceX's favor, as the tech genius had to convince people that the suits actually worked. One of his tweets read, "It definitely works. You can just jump in a vacuum chamber with it and it's fine." And guess what? He was right. Moving on, what are the reviews? SpaceX's new spacesuit's new sci-fi look has certainly caught the eye of many, but for the Crew Dragon astronauts, these suits were more than just a fashion statement. The onboard crew were among the few lucky ones who got to try on the suit during the Demo 2 test flight to the International Space Station. Thanks to a spectacular launch-in from Florida, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley were able to take off without a hitch, all the while showing off an impressive new wardrobe change. The suits were a stark contrast from the orange pumpkin suits these gentlemen had been used to wearing over the years. In their own words, the suits were much easier to get into and out of in zero-G. Well, that was mostly because the suits were fitted to each of their physiques. In one conversation concerning the entire experience, Behnken said, "We'd have to get the suits a 5-star rating." Having a veteran give you his stamp of approval, now that's high praise for Musk. Behnken even went as far as to say that when it comes to high fidelity from a training perspective, SpaceX's suits take the win. Both Doug and I can sit in a capsule, we can put on suits, and we can go through a situation or a scenario where the suits are going to inflate, said Behnken. The astronauts also made a point to thank the ground team for their impeccable work. Let's take a look at some of the suit's most notable features. Both Hurley and Behnken had a lot to appreciate about SpaceX's work. One of the primary functions of the suit was to protect the astronauts in case of a fire or depressurization event aboard the Crew Dragon. Now, these suits didn't have to do that for the astronauts, but they did. And that's something that didn't go unappreciated by Behnken. Another feature worth mentioning is the gloves that were designed to work with the spacecraft touchscreens. What's more, the suits were made to plug into seat umbilicals whose job is to supply the astronaut with cool air and oxygen. All in all, the two astronauts appreciated just how simple and easy to use the suits were. With those features, even NASA was forced to come out and praise SpaceX's efforts, saying that the suit is designed to be practical and lightweight. Coming up, what was the design process? SpaceX's Maria Sundin, lead spacesuit specialist, and Chris Trigg, spacesuits and crew equipment manager, were kind enough to give everyone a sneak peek into the design and production process for the high-tech suit. Trigg explained that the suit is essentially one part of a system that includes the Dragon crew seat. He's talking about how the seats and suits work together to keep the astronauts comfortable, and most importantly, safe. Trigg also went on to explain the thought process behind housing the helmet with communication units and valves and its ability to seal in oxygen. He also emphasized in a SpaceX Twitter video on May 27th that the design team's #1 priority was to make the suits as easy to use for its users as possible. It's quite obvious that the SpaceX team poured its heart and soul into perfecting its suits. Before they had Hurley and Behnken try on the suit, they had them tested in orbit. In fact, a version of this suit was used on the Tesla dummy that was sent into space aboard the Tesla Roadster. However, for all their candidness, even in the behind-the-scenes video, SpaceX was careful not to reveal too much. They don't want the competition getting ahead, now do they? Moving on, who's the inspiration? Of course, the scientists and engineers at SpaceX deserve all the praise in the world for coming up with the suits, but there's one person we're all forgetting. Who is it? No other than the iconic Hollywood costume designer Jose Fernandez. If you didn't know before, this is the man responsible for the genius behind the costumes for Wolverine and Captain America. He's also lent his services to Batman vs Superman, and this time, he's responsible for giving SpaceX suits that edge over NASA's old suits. With these suits, SpaceX has put its best foot forward when it comes to making threads to not only keep astronauts comfortable, but also all the civilians it plans to take to Mars in the coming years as part of its space colonization vision. Next up, does Elon Musk want to help out NASA? Elon Musk offered the government space agency his company's services for making next-generation spacesuits. After a report came out detailing that NASA was actually behind schedule and needed more than $1 billion to complete the project, Musk did not waste a second tweeting about how SpaceX could do it. According to the report posted by NASA's Inspector General Michael Sheets, NASA has launched 3 different space programs since 2007. How much have they spent in that time? Well, $420.1 million. And the project is nowhere near complete as the agency plans to spend $625.2 million as well. The money will go towards developing and testing a suit for demonstration on the ISS, as well as 2 suits for the crewed mission to the moon. We're, of course, talking about the Artemis program, a series of missions set for the moon's orbit and surface in the coming years. Moving on, what does Musk think the problem is? According to the Inspector General, the delays in the development of spacesuits are to be blamed on technical challenges, the pandemic, and the age-old funding problems. With that said, the inspector doesn't expect the spacesuits to be ready anytime before April 2025. Previously, NASA had announced that the spacesuits would be ready by March 2023. Now, what does Musk think? Well, he thinks there are too many cooks in the kitchen. As per the inspector's reports, the spacesuit underwork at NASA has many different companies that are supplied by 27 different companies, which is where the problem lies. Musk also thinks that the 2024 timeline is doable. His space venture already has a central role in the Artemis program since the company won the $2.9 billion contract and will now be using its Starship rocket to deliver astronauts to the moon. Next, who did NASA choose to make their spacesuits? Well, this was all the news from last year. This year in June, NASA just came out and announced the 2 private space companies that'll be handling the development of spacesuits for the agency. The lucky 2 are none other than Collins Aerospace and Axiom Space. Oceaneering and ILC Dover are also partners with Collins on the project. As per the announcement, the milestone-based contracts have a $3.5 billion maximum value through 2034. The new spacesuits are expected to be used during Artemis 3, the first moon mission since Apollo 17. Now, are these companies a good choice? Well, Axiom Space recently joined hands with SpaceX to launch its first all-private human mission to the International Space Stations, so the company is making leaps. NASA chose these companies out of 40 that submitted bids for the XEVA contract. The question is, should NASA have chosen SpaceX? Did they make a mistake with Collins Aerospace and Axiom Space? The company was already handling the Artemis program, so one could argue they did make for a better choice. Only time will tell how NASA's choices will reflect on the government agency. Alright, that's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on SpaceX's new spacesuits? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Bye now!